Hi, I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain. Today's guest is Cynthia Thornton. She is the author of Medical Mistakes Overcome by Miracles. And I have to show this because I think it's amazing. So this is the box that her book comes in. There is the book. There is a t-shirt, and Cynthia told me that this is my t-shirt, that the t-shirt that it actually comes with is, it has the angel on it that's on the pack. And I just dropped something else that goes in here, so hold on. There's another little inspirational book that you can read. It also comes with a cup with an angel on it. So Cynthia, thank you for being on the show today.
He my breath.
So people see us where we are today. You sitting there looking glamorous and everything, but they don't know the story behind this glamorous author, mentor. You also do speaking engagements, right? So yeah, people don't know the story behind this young lady that's been in the medical field for over 36 years. So could you tell us a little bit about your humble beginnings?
I was born and raised in Oklahoma City. I moved to Texas after the Oklahoma City bombing. That was a little traumatic for me. So that happened April 19th. By August the 25th, I had officially moved to Texas. My mom.
Back up a little bit. You said the Oklahoma City bombing. There are probably a lot of people that don't even know about the Oklahoma City bombing or have even forgotten about it or weren't even born. So can you tell us where you were that day and what the Oklahoma City bombing was actually about?
Yes. I actually had an appointment down there that day. So I was actually working at one of the hospitals, and I got stuck in a patient's room drawing blood, and I was, in a hurry to get back to the lab so I can make my 9:15 appointment. And as we were coming back, the hospital shook, and we thought somebody hit the back of the dock. Yeah, and so we went into survival mode. And mind you, 30 days prior to that, we had training to help us if a tragedy was to strike. So that training had prepared us for that day. So yeah, so that was pretty traumatic. And we were at work for several days, tending to the patients and doing everything that we could to help them to get through that tragic experience.
Yeah, I remember, I can tell you exactly where I was. I was at a gym working out, and on the television, it showed this building blowing up. They kept showing it. And I thought, what third world country is this? And then I saw Oklahoma City. And one of my cousins lived in Oklahoma City at the time. And I remember jumping off the treadmill, and I kept calling. And it was 2 days before I could get through not knowing if she was alive or not. And actually found out a couple of people that I knew were actually killed in that bombing. So it wasn't just a little thing. It was a disruption. I can't remember, what was that? Do you remember the year?
It was April 19th of 1995. Yes. Yeah. So it's been 30 years. Yeah.
Well, that's why I said some people wouldn't even been born to know what that was. So you survived the Oklahoma City bombing, and shortly after there, you moved to Texas.
To Texas, yes, later my dad. And upon moving here, I applied for a job, and the highways here were crazy. So me trying to navigate the Texas highways, and people were blowing at me on the freeway because I'm driving slow because I'm from Oklahoma. So that was a job in itself. We didn't have these phones where you were able to navigate. We had maps though, so I had to use maps to get around to get through. So that was that part.
You know what? We just jumped right in without giving you the opportunity to talk about your humble beginnings, and that's where I usually like to start. You started in with born in Oklahoma, but tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yes, I grew up with 4 sisters. My mom had 4 girls, so we were all, we grew up together. We grew up in the project, so we didn't have a lot of stuff, but we had love. So we had a large family and, cousins, and it was just it was a good experience for me to to have experienced that part of it. But even me, I knew that I wanted something more. I knew that the projects in that life was not for me. That wasn't who Cynthia was. So I always stepped outside of me. So, getting a job, start working at 13 years old. So that
you started working at 13?
Yeah, McDonald's.
Okay. Yes. That was my first job too.
Yes, I started working at 13 years old at McDonald's because I knew that I wanted, more. I didn't want my mom to have to, take care of me, although she had all these other responsibilities. So that was my way of pitching in to help her. So that was just me.
What number were you? What number two?
I'm the baby girl. Baby girl, yes, ma'am. Good.
So tell us about a really happy time that you can remember as a child.
A really happy time, I would say, when we would all go to the drive-in, right? Everybody would cook, fried chicken. We would hide in the car, because we could afford, for all of us to get inside the drive-in. So that was good. And we did a lot of family picnics and functions and those type of things. So those were my happy moments. Absolutely.
So I'm going to flip it. Tell us about a dark time that you can remember as a child.
Oh, wow. A dark time that I can remember as a child. One moment came when I had witnessed a murder when I was 8 years old. I was somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be because I wanted to get some candy, right? And Mom said no. So I went to the neighbor's house, which I always go to the store for him. And he would give me a couple of quarters to get candy. So as I was in his home, and I went and got the groceries and I came back, and then the man was there and I was taking his groceries out and he shot directly at him. And when he realized that I was standing right there, he shot at me and I was waiting for the bullet to hit, but nothing ever touched me. So I literally had to run outside of that home past him, and then to run around the building to hide behind a car. And he shot him some more. And then he ran out. And then that's when the police came. But I seen him coming towards the car and I was down on the ground and I seen his feet coming around. And then that's when he took off. So that was a pretty dark moment for me. Yeah.
I also, from our conversations,
Yeah.
I remember you and your sister
Yes.
had
Yeah, we had a situation. We got kidnapped for a short moment, and we were walking to the store, and we went the busy way. But then we seen the guy on the bike, and so we decided to take the back street, right? And it was nothing but woods and bushes everywhere. So when we took the back street to try to get back home, he came out of nowhere and just snatched us up, took us to an abandoned building. He said, "Who wants to go look at these dolls?" And we was like, we don't want to go look at the dolls. We don't want to go look at the dolls. So he took my sister inside, and he didn't get a chance to hurt her because I stayed outside and I screamed and I screamed and I screamed. And these men said they heard a little voice off in these trees and bushes, and it was just like a forest out there. But I wasn't going to leave my sister. And I screamed and I screamed and I screamed. So they came, went inside the building and beat the guy up and brought him to our house. And my uncles pulled the gun on him. And when the police came, the police had to pull the gun on my uncle to get him to put the game there. Yeah, absolutely. So that was pretty traumatic for us in itself. So yes. Yeah.
Well, most little kids playing with dolls back then was the was the highlight of our life. And look here, you're a little girl looking at things that most people would never even experience in their life. So tell us a little bit about your teenage.
My teenage years. I was an honor roll student, 8th grade, going up through high school, and my mom was dealing with some difficult situations, and when it came time for my senior year, I eventually had to get an apartment to move out, And I graduated from school. I wasn't on the honor roll still, but, going through high school, working 2 or 3 jobs, and even just to pay for that apartment, So that was kind of how my teenage years went, working. And I just have always been that individual.
And you said pay for that apartment when you were in high school?
Yeah. Senior year. Yeah.
So how did you end up in an apartment in your senior year?
Well, me and my mom had gotten into a big fight, and when she asked me to leave, I was like, okay. And so I left and ended up getting my own place.
At 17?
At 17, yeah.
So was it scary?
It wasn't scary for me because I've always been that driven child, that always did things my way and on my own account. So I braided hair, I waitressed, I did whatever that I needed to do to pay those bills. Yeah.
I know in your book you talk about having 20 surgeries. So how were you when you had the first surgery?
My first surgery I had when I was 8 years old.
Can you remember that at all?
Yeah, I do. I had got my appendix taken out, and when it was time to go home, Mom was on her way to come to the hospital, and I was in the shower, and I realized that my stomach was leaking. And so I brought the nurses in, and they said, "Did you do anything to it?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And so when they went and did the x-rays, that's when they discovered that they left sponges inside of my stomach. And so then now I got 1 scar. So now I'm getting ready to have 2 scars. So then that kind of resonated with the body shaming issues that I began to develop, growing up as a child. So yeah. And then my last surgery I had when I was 48 years old. So, and they have all been very, very traumatic.
So walk us through from that first surgery through, like you said, the last.
The last one. Okay, well, after the first surgery that I had, then I ended up having weight loss surgery because I got up to over 400 pounds. And so I've had 2 different weight loss surgeries. So, and I ran into complications with those surgeries as well. And one, even with my, and I had 2 children. And my daughter, I had a C-section with her. And I remember when they were, because I was in the hospital for about 2 or 3 months, and I remember that they were going to try to send me home. And I said, no. The nurse practitioner was like, you've been here long enough, and I think you're scary about going home. I said, I'm not leaving this hospital until you get that doctor and bring him up here. She said, he's in a meeting. I said, I will wait in this bed. And sure enough, he came up there. He had on a nice gray suit. He came in and said, Miss Thornton, are you okay? I said, no, I'm not okay. So then when he pressed on my stomach, blood shot out everywhere. So that had you to send me home, I would have bled to death. And then another time came when I had my son with the C-section, and I had to have my gallbladder out when I was pregnant with him. So after I had the gallbladder surgery, and then I kept telling them that something didn't feel right once again, they took me back in and said, oh, it's just a hematoma. But then when I look at my medical records, it says that you had a liver biopsy. So now, mind you, I was in a car accident. The chiropractor did scans. And he said, Ms. Thornton, did you have surgery on your liver? I said, no, sir, I did not. He said, come here, let me show you. And sure enough, there was clips and pins all in my liver that I didn't know anything about, at that time. So it had just been a very traumatic, surgery.
So somewhere along the way, you had a procedure, and apparently they did something to your liver. And being in healthcare myself, I know that those situations happen. And the unfortunate thing is, you would have never even known that happened had you not had surgery. I remember being a dental assistant years ago. And so I did an x-ray. The guy came in, his jaw was so big, and so I did an x-ray, And the X-ray, it looked as though there was some material in there, which would have been where they impacted from something else and didn't take it out. And I went and showed the dentist. I said, look at this X-ray. And I said, he has something inside of there from this picture. And that dentist said, do you want to keep your job? Because I said, we need to let him know. He said, do you want to keep your job? And so I was probably about 19 and I want to keep my job. He said, well, you go do your job. This is not your job to tell him. And that dentist didn't tell that man anything. I wish, hindsight is 2020, that I had even got the man's number, because I would have said something, because I would have wanted somebody to tell me. But the thing is, that dentist knew there could be a lawsuit. I don't know if it was a former patient of his or patient of someone else's, but yeah, he shut that down. So, people don't like to talk about those things, especially, like I said, with me being in the health field and the instruments that we prepare, they go to the OR. But if mistakes are made like that, people need to be held accountable. And people that don't realize those mistakes can have been in the hospital need to know, because they can.
Yeah. And with me having that many, every time I went in for surgery, it was always a mistake. So me in my mind thinking that I'm broken. So this is supposed to happen all the time. So I never suited.
So let's talk about you being broken. Why would you feel like that means from you being broken, the mistakes?
Because every surgery, it was different doctors, different hospitals, different states. It was always a mistake. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sue them because I'm expecting this to happen, right? I'm expecting it. So this is going to happen and this is the way it is. So that was what I.
So with the brokenness, where you felt you were broken, would that be something that you felt from childhood that made you feel that you were broken, to even think that that's something that's natural?
I'm not even sure about it, but I know I've dealt with even a lot of rejection and abandonment from people, that I think that kind of started that in itself, of me being that loving, because I'm a good friend, I'm a loving friend, and people take advantage of those things. So, and they do. So I think that began that part within me, to where I felt like that I wasn't able to speak out or sue or to do anything like that. So that's the reason that I did not. And in my mind, I don't want the doctors to lose their jobs. I don't want anybody to, to have to suffer from what they actually did to me.
You didn't want them to suffer for making you suffer. Now that's funny. So I heard you say you had gotten up to 400 pounds. So help me with that. Was that part of that, you feeling a certain way?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I ate when I was happy. I ate when I was sad. I ate when I was stressed. And honestly, I love sweets, right? So, and I love to bake. So I wouldn't just eat a slice of the cake. I would eat the whole cake, you know what I mean? So it was just like me, taking a slice and I couldn't stop. So, and then I'm like, oh my God, I just ate
the whole cake.
And then with Dr. Peppers and stuff like that, I drank about 6 of those a day. So, yeah.
So what made you decide, I don't want to be 400 pounds?
I had seen a friend and she looked amazing. She had lost all this weight. So I had my first weight loss surgery in November of 2000. And I just got engaged to be married. So we were having this wedding in June of 2001. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this surgery and I'm going to have it. And it was really bad. They did a lot of, messing up with that surgery. And even me trying to, the weight loss program that I was in, they told me they didn't even want me coming to their meetings because they did a lot of, messing up with that particular surgery. So it was like I didn't have no group or no community to rely on. So what did I do? I was sick for months and months and months and months and months, of that first surgery. So I ended up gaining a lot of the weight back.
Was it the gastric? Which
No, it's called a gastroplasty, and it was a new surgery that they had just started doing, new surgery. And so then after the wedding and all of that, in January of 2003, I had the gastric bypass. And that got me to where I got down to about like 225 pounds. And then after that, I stayed at that weight. And then I started taking Syndexa injections. And this was around in 2017. And that brought me down to, where I am. And then I got a personal trainer. And then at the end of the day, I started, fasting and prayer and diet and exercise. So that's got me to where I am today.
Good for you. Now, I'm curious because you said you were engaged at 400 pounds. Then you made the decision to lose weight. How did your fiance?
He wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was my decision, and I knew that it was best for me. So he didn't want me to lose any other weight.
Yeah. And I say that because I remember my mother and my stepfather, he was a cook at a restaurant. So he would bring all this food home late at night, and she would just be up eating it, and I'm watching my mother get bigger and bigger and bigger. And he would tell her, eat some more, because my mom was really, really pretty. And I heard him say, when she said, I'm getting fatter and fatter and fatter, and he said, that's just the way I want you to stay. And I often wondered if it was because of his insecurities that he didn't want her. He wanted her where he felt no one else would look at her.
Yeah. And I wanted to put this in there that when we met, I wasn't 400 pounds. I wasn't 400 pounds. I was maybe around 300 when we got together. So it was before I got with him that I, was 400 pounds. So yes.
So I'm assuming you went your separate ways, or did you get married?
No, we got married.
You got married, okay. Okay. You lost your weight, you got married.
I have 2 beautiful children, and we remain friends, yeah. Good friends. Yes, ma'am.
So hold that thought. We're going to take a sponsor break, and we'll be right back.
Do you have a powerful story of perseverance? Have you triumphed over pain and want to share your story with the world? We're looking for inspiring guests to join us on the Prevailing Through Pain podcast. Head over to KarenSherry.me/guest. Fill out the form and let us know your story. Your voice could be the one to inspire others. Your experience can be the one to lift up someone else. Go to KarenSherry.me/guest.
All right, and we're back. So tell us what inspired you to tell your story?
Because so much had happened, I just felt like people needed to know. Because at one of my lowest moments came, after one of the lowest moments came was after attempted suicide. And that happened.
Will you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes.
What got you to that point?
God had been showing me things, and I literally thought I was going crazy about people's lives and stuff in the future and stuff that even happened before I was born. And I didn't feel comfortable enough to talk to anyone about that because, again, you know how the enemy works. And so I thought that I was crazy. And so he kept showing me these things, and then these things would happen. And I was just like, I just knew that I was going crazy. And so that was when I attempted suicide, because I really didn't understand that aspect of what I had, the gift that I had. And that was when I, attempted suicide. So,
I can relate to both. When I was younger, I dreamt my death. I lived with my grandparents, and I would see these pills coming down in a coffin. I'd see these cigarettes coming down in a coffin, and then this funny looking cigarette. I was a little girl, so I didn't know what the funny looking cigarette, my grandfather smoked, so I knew what the cigarette was. And then I'd look in the coffin, and it was me, and the coffin would close. And I'd run and go get in the bed with my grandparents, and I would tell my grandmother, I died again. I died again. She said, Karen, you're not dead. And then I would start having dreams of, like I dreamt my grandmother, I dreamt my brother died. I was in New York on a trip with my aunt, and I dreamt my brother died. And we were standing there, and there was a deer by his tombstone in the backyard of my grandmother's house, right? And I kept telling my aunt, we gotta go home. My brother's name is Paul. Paul died. And so my aunt called and she said, he's not dead. And I said, well, he's gonna die. We need to get home. And we went home, and my grandmother that raised me, her car was in front of the church. I went in there and I said, have you seen Paul? And so she said, no, but I saw the kids the other day. And then my grandmother, my mother's mother, her house was right next door to this little country church. And her door was, I could tell, the door was open. And that was unusual because she worked. So I went to her house and said the same thing. I said, what are you doing home? She said, oh, I didn't feel good, so I didn't go to work. And I said, well, have you seen Paul? And so she said, yeah, the kids were around there playing. So I went around to the house where my siblings, my mother's house, because I wasn't raised in the house with my siblings, and they were all outside playing. Paul was outside playing. My grandfather drops my mother off at work about 3 hours later. And then he comes back to the house and he was saying, Jeannie, something's wrong with Mert, which was my grandmother, my mother's mother. She was dead by the time he got home from work. And I would have dreams like that. And I told my grandmother that raised me, and I was like, these dreams scare me. I'm scared to go to sleep. And she said, oh, it's a gift of God. For me, though, I prayed and said, God, I don't want this gift. Give it to somebody else. I don't have those dreams anymore. But I'm saying I can relate to you because I kept saying, why am I having these dreams? I would be afraid to go through the day because I knew somebody was going to die. And for me, it was always the opposite sex. If I dreamt the man in that family died, it was a woman in that family. You know, a woman, it was a man.
Wow.
So yeah.
So
what stopped you from going further with that thought of it in your life?
No, I took a bunch of pills, and the kid's dad was up visiting, and we were getting ready to leave to go pay bills, and he was still in the car waiting, and I was in there on the floor, so he rushed me to the hospital. And that was nothing but God that he was in town at that moment and took me to the hospital. But yes, and they did that medicine to bring you back, you know. And so yes, but I actually did it. Yeah.
So did you ever talk to anyone about your dreams?
No, not until recently that I started, understand
it. It's a whole lot to keep internal. Right?
Yeah. So it's, and I did do some counseling sometime after that. So, and just kind of getting a better understanding about who I was and what God was doing in my life. So that part was very, very difficult for me, and I'm a better person now. I'm grown, and I just thank God that he allowed me to see my kids graduate high school. So that was a blessing in itself. So I just thank him for saving me and to get me to this side. Yes.
So you also, you do mentoring.
Yes.
And you do speaking engagements.
Yes, ma'am.
So coming from sounding like more of an introvert, how did you blossom to where you felt comfortable to telling your story?
This took a long time to get here. A lot of training, discipleship classes, people mentoring me, so that in turn allowed me to be able to mentor others, and sometimes you feel like, an imposter syndrome, like, I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not worthy enough to do this. But God says, no, I have equipped you. He said, I will, like he always say, I equip the ones that are called, and that's what he did. He has been equipping me to go through this journey. So I just give him all praise and honor for that, Absolutely.
So what's next?
What's next? I'm praying that I'm going to be writing another book that's going to be coming out. I'm in the process of doing that now, praying for more speaking engagements and just doing a lot of things in the kingdom. So that is what I am definitely looking forward to. allowing God to use me in this season.
Well, you have a phenomenal story and testimony,
Yeah.
most of them testimony. So I want you to look in the camera, and what would you tell some little girl that was you early on in life? What would you tell her
Yeah.
that's struggling with, I'm feeling, some kind of way and just don't know what to do?
I would tell her to trust your instincts, continue to pray and ask God to give you wisdom, and just to be you. You're not designed to be anyone else. You are the blueprint. God created you to be different and unique, and just continue to be yourself, and people will flock to you. So don't change who you are for anyone. Continue to remain you. So that's what I would encourage them.
Thank you. So where can our viewers find you?
Yes, you can actually go to my website, and it is CynthiaDThornton.com, and that is CynthiaDThornton.com.
If they purchase your book.
You can go to my website, and my book you can get my book from wherever books are sold, Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. You just click on my website, and it will lead you straight to be able to purchase the book. Yes. Thank you.
Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing this story.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being an inspiration and also being our healthcare hero.
Yes.
Thank you for being part of the podcast.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.